you want to take your seats? If you have a Bible to hand, wow, this is small text. Wow, my eyes are really getting worse. If you've got a Bible to hand, if you want to turn to Exodus chapter 20, I'm only reading this one because it's the NIV, which is the same as going to be on the screen. My word, this is really small. I'll have a go. Oh, I'm gonna. Well, yeah, I'm gonna try and use the bendy Bible. There's nothing like a bendy Bible, so I'm gonna use one of those. Okay, so we're gonna read, as we have been doing over the last few weeks, as we've been looking at this particular series, out of Exodus chapter 20. And God spoke all these words: I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor their male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false witness against your neighbor, and you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. God will bless the reading, especially when it's very small. So today we are going to continue this series on the Ten Commandments, and I have the blessing of looking at the fifth commandment. And if you're following through, you may have figured that out, that is the honor your father and mother. Josh, Becky, honor your father and mother. It's all the days of your life. That your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Now, the first 4 commandments that Harry has taken us through so far, they've focused upon our relationship with God himself. They've instructed us about how to love, how to behave towards him, and have reverence towards him. They teach us about our priorities, our worship, and about the holiness of his name. But as we arrive at this 5th commandment, there is a significant shift, because the focus, instead of it being upwards towards God, turns outwards towards relationships. And it starts with the most fundamental of all human connections, the family. The family is the primary unit within society. It is an institution that has been ordained by God from the very beginning. It is within the family that we first learn about love, respect, authority, and care. The family is where our foundational understanding of relationships are formed. And it's through our interactions with the family that we first encounter principles that will guide our interactions in the wider community and also the world around us for years to come. Now, we should remember that when we're looking at the Ten Commandments and the purpose of the Ten Commandments is to outline for us God's expectation of our pattern of behavior. They revealed to the Israelites and also to us a bit of who God is. And we need to take that knowledge that we now have because of the Ten Commandments, and we kind of need to translate that knowledge into our understanding of what appropriate behavior is. But actually what that looks like. It's easy with things like do not steal or do not murder, I guess. We'll come to those in a few weeks. But what does something like this look like? Honor parents. Something that should be a continual source of reflection. When Harry asked me to speak on this commandment, I thought, yeah, that's fine. No problem. Proper easy one is that one. Proper easy one. How hard can this one be? But despite my initial assumption, it is not quite that straightforward. It's quite strange in the list of 10. And there's a few reasons why I think it's strange. Firstly, there seems to be a time limit on it. The other commandments are kind of lifelong ones. You know, you don't get to 70 and then it's okay for you to go out and kill somebody. All right? Or it's all right for you to go and grab somebody else's ox or their donkey. Oh, I'm 70, I'm allowed, it's okay, I can do that. But in the normal circle of life, there will come a point in time when your parents are no longer alive. And so for a proportion of society, it seems as though you've only got 9 that you have to follow, not 10. Secondly, this is the only commandment that really carries a promise. If you obey this commandment, you will have a long life in the land that the Lord your God has given. It's a promise that's also repeated in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and also chapter 5 when it relates to other laws, not just this one, but other laws as well. But surely there are those who don't get along with their parents and they live long lives. And then there are those who are really good kids and their life's cut short. So it seems to me on the face of it that this kind of appears to be technically not always correct. Thirdly, again on the face of it, this commandment is a little one way. The responsibility is on the child, not upon the parents. Where is the commandment, I say? If you are a parent, thou shalt be good. Fourthly, this commandment is probably the most emotive of them all. Because all of us will have different pictures in our minds about our parents. We don't come and start in the same place with this commandment. And that's been tricky for me when I've been thinking about putting this together. You know, if I was to preach on thou shalt not commit murder, we'd all, I would hope, would say, you know what, that's absolutely right. We shouldn't commit murder. But I expect, certainly on the broadcast, that looking at a subject like this may start to stir some raw emotions. And here was me thinking, you know what, this is straightforward, it's fine, it's not a bad preach, it won't take long. But by the time I started asking myself some of these questions, I'm thinking, Harry, you've passed me an hospital pass here. This is not good. There wasn't enough time to be able to pass it back, and I'm not even sure he wanted it in the first place. So he kind of stuck with me, giving my thoughts on this. And my thoughts is that I've been very fortunate and very well blessed with my parents. And so when I consider this commandment, it is with a very different view than someone else whose upbringing has been challenging, whose parents have been absent, who have been unloving, or worse. Behaviors that have broken the family unit. Pretty much no one in my family as I was growing up were divorced. You had to go to, second cousins thrice removed or something like that to find a step sibling within the family. So I don't have any childhood experiences of the family institution being broken. For me, mum and dad were around all the time. I was well supported in everything that I did, wanted for nothing that I needed. Might have wanted for things that I didn't need, that I didn't get, but I certainly got everything that I needed. I was encouraged, I was loved, I was helped, I was provided for, and I was nurtured. And that is kind of the way that the institution of what we call family is supposed to be. And so for me to honor my parents, and we'll get to what honor means shortly, it doesn't seem too difficult a job. Compared with someone who will inevitably ask, do I need to honor my parents when they were really bad to me? Surely I am excluded from that. What does this commandment have to do with me when I suffered at their hands? From the very beginning of time, the family served as the primary context for education and socialization. Parents were the first teachers, imparting lessons of faith, values, and practical skills that are necessary for life. Family life was the bedrock of society. And it's within this close-knit unit that children learn about their identity, their heritage, their responsibilities to a wider community, and also to God. The family was where children first learned about the sacredness of relationships, the importance of honor, authority, and respect, and the value of communal and divine laws. And it's interesting that when we consider the remaining commandments, that their expectations of behavior and being kept are kind of like driven behavior. It should be taught in the family unit, and it's almost through this fifth commandment that the other ones should be unlocked. The responsibility of parents cannot be overstated. The parental role is to be reflective of God's character, his nurturing, protectiveness, guiding, forgiving nature. Parents in this capacity are supposed to mirror these divine attributes, setting a spiritual and a moral example for their children to follow. As parents, we often say, well, there's no rule book. And we're making it up as we go along. It's not quite true. Well, actually, the bit that's true is we're making it up as we go along. I'm sure that's true. But there is a rule book. Parents are tasked by God with a divine commission to raise children in the knowledge and the fear of the Lord, to guide them in understanding their place, and to prepare them to fulfill their own role within God's kingdom. That is the parent's responsibility. That's the rule book. But this pattern is not always the case. And that can be for many different reasons and loads of different circumstances. It's both with and also without the fault of the parents that this does happen. And there is an inordinate amount of research to show, and please understand that I'm speaking here at very much a macro level of society rather than individual families and exceptions and all that sort of stuff, but a macro level. But there's a lot of research that shows that when family structures break down or are not there in the way they should be as to the original pattern that God intended, it has a severe consequence upon the upcoming generation. Community cohesion is impacted. Social mobility, public health, mental health, well-being, crime and delinquency, economic impact, children's development and education, just to name a small selection of problems that are exacerbated when family structures are not operating effectively. It's fair, and I think it's right to say, that when family works at a societal level, then you can expect there to be societal benefits. Because when the family thrives, society thrives. And if you want to damage a society, damage the family, because they're intrinsically linked. One of the purposes of this series on the Ten Commandments is to look at what the commandments meant to the people of Israel when they received it at Sinai, and also what it means to us today. And by the time that they were given the commandments, the Israelites at Sinai, the parental role had gone to pot. Families were broken at that point. The intended structure for the Israelites, it was not working. And I'm not sure what pictures are conjured in your mind when you think about the Israelites as slaves. But imagine, if you will, the family structure during those years of slavery. Families were torn apart. Parents are separated from their children, forced into slavery, working extensive hours, time away from the home, perhaps permanently. The emotion of missing siblings or children, absent parents, life-changing injuries, most likely premature death, little control over their lives, and no autonomy to fulfill the God-given role of nurturing and teaching their kids. Through no fault of their own, as parents, they were in an oppressive environment that made it exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to pass down faith, culture, traditions, the very elements that make a family cohesive and strong. Years and years of families not working in the way that they were designed. Circumstances completely out of their control, I get that, but nevertheless still impactful upon the next generations who had little understanding of what it meant to be part of an effective family unit. By the time of the Exodus, families would not have worked properly for generations. There was damage in families, damage in parents, damage in kids, damage and brokenness in people. Slavery had robbed them of their family structure. And we see the impact of this throughout their time in the wilderness. You know, appreciating and respecting authority is a key tenet of growing up within a family. And we read time after time throughout Exodus and Numbers about how the people continue to reject Moses and his authority as leader. Their eagerness to do this is kind of born out of their lack of respect for authority, which points back to family breakdown. And so this fifth commandment is different from the others because it is looking to restore something that had been broken. God was reteaching them about the role and the importance of families, restoring foundational principles of family life. Parents now, free from the bounds of slavery, were once again in a position to fulfill their responsibilities, to teach, to guide, to protect, to nurture their children in the ways of the Lord. Great. Great. But this commandment was not aimed at parents. This is a commandment for children to honor their parents, not for parents to impart their parental skills. So why does this commandment focus upon the children? Well, not everyone's a parent, but we've all had parents to I guess. And to some degree, this is more encompassing as a commandment for children rather than parents. But beside that, there are a large number of scriptures that explain the role and the responsibilities of parents towards their children. And I think that it is implied here that parents should operate with as near as unconditional love for their children as humanly possible. I also think, particularly in the circumstances that I find myself in at the moment, that the role of the parent should get easier over time. I believe the first 24 years are the hardest, but I'm hopeful. Kids get less and less dependent upon you and more independent over time, and the amount of input that you have to have kind of diminishes and also maybe changes in ways. Whilst the role of a child, the role of a child actually becomes harder. Increasing responsibilities as the parent ages. And this commandment, partially at least, serves as a continual reminder of the responsibilities of the child to their parent, particularly in later life. We have various care services now available, but at the time that this was given, and in the context that this is given, it was all upon the family to care for the elderly. But to understand this better, we need to kind of talk through a little bit about what the word honor means. The literal word in the Hebrew for honor means to be heavy. It can refer to actual weight, weight of objects. It can indicate their heft or their mass. And in ancient times, weight was associated with value, especially in the context of trade and the economy. The word then becomes synonymous or metaphorical with significance or importance, of worth in comparison to other such items. A person who was described as being heavy could be viewed as carrying more significance or authority within a community. And so to heavy one's parents, in that sense, means to treat them as important, to give weight to their words and their presence, to acknowledge their significant role in the fabric of your life, to elevate their status above others, reflecting their inherent worth to you. And so to honor your parents could include things like acknowledging their significance in your life, respecting their requirements, valuing their wisdom and experience, supporting and caring for them, listening and engaging with them, fulfilling obligations and duty with integrity, and living in a way that reflects positively upon them. But I do not believe that this is unconditional. Parents have a primary responsibility to be honorable so that the children can honor them. And we have to be real about this. Despite my experience growing up, and it's not my experience, of course, but you only have to listen to the news to know that there are some lousy, frankly, vile parents who are not worthy of being honored. And we've got to be real about this sort of stuff. It's no good to say everything's nice and rosy. It's not. And having had time to consider this over the last few weeks, I offer these thoughts. These are my thoughts. I think these fall in line with the spirit of the commandment, but these are my thoughts. You're free to do whatever you want with them. Firstly, if you are a parent or mentoring some younger people in some way, because I get not everyone is a parent, but everyone should be an example to the next generation. We have a responsibility to be honorable, to live in a way that is worthy of being significant to that child or young person under your care or influence. Particularly to parents. God is commanding your son or daughter to give you special weight and significance in their lives. You then have a responsibility to be worthy of that importance by the way in which you behave towards them. And there are significant Bible verses to reflect that. Secondly, if a parent is not living or behaving in a manner that is worthy of honor, I think that the responsibility of the son or daughter is to honor the role of the parent rather than the person who occupies the role. And by that, I don't mean that they should be dishonored. I don't think that you should withhold forgiveness if that is needed. Just that there is not a personal elevation of them. Perhaps that goes to someone else who has operated as a parent to you or stood in the gap. However, having said that, there must be a recognition in the significance and in the importance of parental honor. That is a critical role of a parent. So when you, and I guess I'm speaking more to anyone listening on the broadcast, but when you become a parent for yourself, you behave in the manner that God intended, and you don't continue the brokenness that you have experienced into the next generation. As the Israelites were taught the importance of honoring parents by this commandment, you become the commandment, as it were. You honor the role by becoming the person that you did not have, so that your son or daughter finds it easy to keep the commandment for themselves. Thirdly, there are not 9 commandments. Despite your age or circumstances, there are still 10. You continue to honor your parents even after they have died by living in a manner that respects their values that they have instilled in you, and thereby respecting and honoring their memory by remembering their significance in you becoming who you are. And fourthly, for the avoidance of doubt, the promise linked with this commandment, offering longevity in the land, was a collective promise to the nation of Israel, not an individual one. It highlighted to the nation at Sinai the critical and important role that family unit played in building and supporting the nation's health and stability from there on. This cohesion within families was essential for Israel to fulfill its role as a beacon to other nations. That's not to say we are not blessed when we operate within the role, but it was for them. in honoring our parents, in fulfilling the commandment in whatever way that is for you, we also honor God himself. See, this commandment is rooted in the fundamental principles that our actions towards others reflect our relationship with God. When we honor our parents, we are not only fulfilling a social or family duty, but we are also living out God's commands in a way and in a manner that pleases him. And for that reason, I believe that as Christians, we should give more than we take when we're honoring parents. But it actually goes further than that. See, when we reflect on this commandment, we uncover a profound connection to our relationship with God as our Heavenly Father. This commandment points us and leads us to a deeper spiritual relationship with him. God consistently reveals himself as a father, deliberately, I think, choosing that relationship which embodies the closest and most profound human bounds that we have to illustrate his immense love and care for us. The depiction of God as Father is crucial. It underscores his commitment to integrate us into his divine family. And this commitment offers a consistent and unconditional love that some may have not experienced with their own parents, ensuring that no one is left spiritually orphaned. God's invitation to join his family extends equally to everyone, providing a unique opportunity for all to receive his nurturing, his guidance, his encouragement, his support, and his protection. And unlike earthly family relationships that vary, our all relationship with God starts at the same point of his unconditional access for everyone. See, regardless of our personal experiences with our parents, good, indifferent, or bad, this commandment universally directs us towards God. For some, it reinforces the love and care that they have received. For others, it highlights the contrast in divine provision. But ultimately, we all share the profound opportunity and privilege to honor God, therefore enriching our spiritual lives and encouraging us to fulfill our divine purpose as children of the Father. Let's pray. God, I'm very mindful of this subject and the different places that we are brought to it. Conscious of its emotive nature. But God, I thank you that despite where we are with it, you come at it as a God who has given as a father unconditional love to all those who would accept. No favorites, no different way of operating. For the ground at the foot of the cross is all level. And so, God, where there is healing needed, pray your Spirit would meet the need. Where thankfulness and rejoicing is needed, that you would renew and refresh those thoughts. But in all things, you would enable us to honor you as our Father in the way that we operate, the way that we think, the way that we act, the way that we behave. May it all be honoring to you, that the kingdom of God would grow and you would be blessed.